Today's guest is Michael Van Wagoner, an established singer, songwriter, and producer out of Utah. Michael has been making waves across the scene and has recently had his song Never Be past 100,000 streams on Spotify. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks, man. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you on, man. So it looks like you've been doing some really exciting things. Like Bowie said, one of your songs passed 100,000 streams.
Yeah.
And looking over your history and everything that you've done, I kind of want to start at the beginning, how you got into
Okay.
music yeah, how did you get into music? When did you start writing?
So, I mean, I come from a pretty musical family. I think a lot of us do in Utah. And like from the time that I was a kid, I wanted to be a rock star. Told my first grade teacher, like how they make you pick, oh, I want to be a fireman, I want to be an astronaut. Mine was that I wanted to be a rock star, which, evolved into a pop star eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, always wanted to do it. But I think kind of as you get older, realism kind of hits you in the face and you're like, no, I need to get a real job. I need to get a degree. I need to start making money, provide for my family, that type of stuff. And it definitely, once I became an adult, it wasn't really in the realm of possibility in my mind to pursue music as a career. But I don't know, just the more I tried studying a bunch of different things in college, I tried doing computer science. I've worked like every odd job that you can think of. And just something about creating music, it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was like what I needed to do internally. And so I started playing with local bands and performing here and there, nothing too serious. But then I had an internship opportunity to be an intern for the guys who manage Imagine Dragons and the Killers out in Las Vegas. So I jumped at that chance. I moved out there, did a bunch of kind of just like back end managerial work for these bands. And I learned so much about the industry from that internship, and I gained some relationships that I really value and I learned so much from. But I learned that the management side of music wasn't where I needed to be. I needed to be creating, I needed to be writing the songs and performing. So I moved back to Utah and just started producing my own stuff and releasing songs.
Man, that's awesome. That's fantastic. So you had an internship with the studio that does Imagine Dragons and everything.
Yeah, so their
right?
management team. So
The
Dan
management
Reynolds
team.
is the singer of Imagine Dragons, and his brothers Mac and Robert manage them and the Killers. And their team manages quite a few other like up and coming indie artists and producers. So yeah, I just got to be a part of their team as an intern and kind of learn the ins and outs of the industry from them. So that was cool.
That is cool. That's really cool. One of your posts is that you worked with La La Land and the Greatest Showman people, or you were able to meet with them, or something like that. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was kind of just a random opportunity. Pasek and Paul, the writers of those shows, they came to UVU and just did a workshop, and they selected a couple students to do a workshop where we would perform a song and they would kind of give us some feedback and critique and help us out. So that was just a random one-off opportunity that I played a song for them, and they said they really liked it, gave their feedback. It was awesome. They were really down to earth guys, so it was a cool opportunity.
Yeah, that is really cool. I've seen some of their interviews, and they do seem like down to earth people and good to know people.
Yeah, especially in our industry, there are so many people that once they achieve a certain level of success, they become larger than life, and you expect kind of this inflated personality. But they were both just really, really chill guys, and they were just really awesome to meet. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when did you start doing production for other artists, writing and doing production for them?
Um, So I think that's kind of the second half of my journey as I moved back to Utah and, went really hard on writing and producing. Um, I didn't think that I had what it takes to be an artist. Um, if I'm just being frank, like I thought I wasn't good looking enough. I needed to like look a certain way. Um, I thought I was like too big. I thought you had to be a certain weight, and have a certain appeal. And I've learned that the industry is very much changing in that regard, and we're seeing a lot more artists who are revered because of their talent and not just because they're like a supermodel or whatever. Um, but I went through a long period of time when I just thought, I'm not going to cut it as an artist. So I just wrote for a lot of other people. I had an opportunity to write with Madeline Page, and I've written with her a lot since. And then that kind of opened the door for like all of her friends and connections I started writing for, and becoming more involved in the industry that way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story. Actually, I think that's something that a lot of musicians have struggled with is the image factor. I think that's key. I like that you brought that up. So yeah, Madeline Page, you said you've worked with quite a few people. Do you write by yourself the majority of the time, or do you have kind of a writing team that you like to work with?
Both for sure. I think when I first started writing, I was the type of writer who I had to go like sit in a dark room in the corner, with the lights off and, get in the mood. But the further I get into the industry, the more that I see that everything is collaborative. If you look at the A-list tracks coming out, there's, 20 people that have helped out with the song, whether it was in the writing, production, mixing, mastering, all that. And so I've been very blessed to develop a circle of friends who are also in the industry, and like Garen, for example, that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And so now I definitely prefer writing in a group just because I think it's more efficient. And I think when you have the right people in the room, it just clicks and the ideas start flowing so much faster than when I'm on my own. But occasionally, if I'm particularly in a powerful mood, whether I'm really happy or really sad, I'll feel inspired to still just go off on my own and write something. But yeah, mostly collaborative nowadays.
That's awesome. Do you record at your house? Do you have a home studio, or do you have a separate studio?
Yeah, so this is right behind me. If I
Yeah,
move out
it
of the
looks
way
great.
here. I mean, it's not much to look at, I've done work in multi-million-dollar studios, and they've got just a huge setup. Everything is sound treated. They have the most expensive gear in the world. But um, honestly, I think with the way the music industry is going right now, is bedroom pop is
Yeah.
just gaining a stronger and stronger foothold. And so people, I'm collaborating actually right now with these two 17-year-old kids in the Netherlands. We connected through Instagram, and I listened to their portfolio, and it's incredible. Just like these teenagers with a laptop producing just amazing pop EDM music. And so, I mean, my setup it's pretty humble, but it gets the job done for sure.
Yeah, that's all you need. Like you said, I think that is the future too. All you need are those stems and a powerful computer to run it.
Yep.
That's awesome. So you're working with kids in the Netherlands also. That's fantastic. I noticed that your first solo song was released April 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That was the first time that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try this out and forget what anybody else thinks. I'm gonna do this for me, and it turned out better than I possibly could have imagined. So
Yeah, you received quite a good response, quite a large response from that. Why don't you tell
yeah.
us a bit about how you felt leading up to releasing that song?
So As I was talking about earlier, I had a lot of insecurities and I felt that I was inadequate. I couldn't be an artist. So I just kind of stuck to songwriting. But deep down, I knew that I wanted to be an artist too. Um, Even if I don't achieve mainstream success ever in my career as an artist, I need it for my own creative fulfillment. Right. And
Yeah,
so I just I took all of those insecurities, all of my feelings of inadequacy, and I put them in a song lyrically, um, and just wrote the song about how I have this ambition and I'm my own worst self-critic and I always get in my own way. And that song is just about pushing out that critic and allowing myself to become who I want to be. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have super high expectations for it. I did my best to promote it and get it out there, but the Spotify algorithm really helped a lot. Um, I mean, it had an amazing response from my friends, and they streamed it a bunch and shared it, and it just hit the algorithm in the right way. It got on Discover Weekly, and it just got pushed out to a whole bunch of people and passed 100,000 streams. Um, and I think it's just because the message resonates with so many people. I feel like most people were our own worst critics.
yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I saw some success with that song. I'm really grateful for it.
that's fantastic. When you felt that success from that song, did that help ease some of those barriers that you were mentioning that you had set up for yourself? Did that help kind of give you more confidence and write more and do more?
It definitely did. Um, it's it's not like flipping a switch and turning off all my insecurities. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's still a struggle every day, feeling like I'm not good enough, feeling like nobody's going to care about this music that I'm writing and putting out. Um, but yeah, the more that I do it and the more that I say, you know what, it's not about the streams, it's not about the number of fans, it's about me being able to have this creative outlet first. And second of all, um, hopefully the music that I write resonates with whoever does listen to it. And that music can help lift them, help them, feel like, what, somebody else is going through the same things as me and like give them comfort. And I've received a lot of messages from people who said, your music really helped me. And that's what it's all about. And so the more that I stop thinking about myself, the more that I'm like, it's not about the streams, it's about impacting people. I've gotten a lot of fulfillment and you know I still have a very long way to go, but I've definitely um, started to gain a little bit of traction and definitely growing. So I'm just grateful for the journey.
That's awesome. I like what you said about the impacting people, focusing on something, like kind of getting out of your own head. I think that's
Yeah.
important. I think that's really helpful, I think, for people who are writing music now, maybe beginning their process or just at that stage, because I feel like a lot of people have been there, where you need to get out of
Mhm.
your head. And so I love that you said that. You just released a new song, Wrong Direction, February 26th.
I
And
did.
you said
Yeah.
that one's been doing well, right?
Yeah. That, I mean, it's had the most successful release of any of my past releases, like the first couple weeks, which is great. Response has been really awesome. And I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
love it.
partially due to it's a collaboration with one of my friends, Mason Murphy, and he's just extremely talented. And I think being able to collaborate and bring both of our fan bases into it and create like a really cool song together, I think that's what has made the difference with this last one.
I thought it was a great song. I think that's I actually listened to it a couple times just before we were talking here, and yeah, I think it's great. And so when you
Appreciate that,
write
man.
your songs, yeah, it's true. I love it. When you're making your songs, what would you say is your process, or does it always change? Is it an evolving process?
It's definitely evolving process. It used to always start on guitar. I play a little bit of piano, but I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a pianist. So I mostly just start on guitar and come up with, the lyrics about whatever I'm feeling at the time. But as I've evolved and kind of I've dove in, dived more.
One of those, yeah.
I've been diving more into production, and it's changed the way that I think about the construction of a song. I'm starting more and more to start with the track in mind, and producing something that I then later write a melody and lyrics to. Um, Lately, how it's been mostly for me is I'll come up with a beat, just kind of like a basic drum loop and guitar or piano or whatever instrumentation. And then I'll top line it. I'll just hum out a melody on la 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 or do 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 or whatever. And then I'll kind of plug lyrics into the melody that I've written. And so it's very melody is king, and then the lyrics like serve the melody, as opposed to the lyrics being most important and the melody like feeding into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's interesting. That's always the way I actually personally wrote too, is kind of more of that approach. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of people that start with the lyrics, and I always find it interesting. And
Yeah, it's
you
like,
with so much experience, you know.
yeah, well, it's like there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. There's no wrong way to write a song. There's so many different approaches, and there are people that are massively successful that don't know the first thing about production, and vice versa. So
Yeah, absolutely. So what about live playing experience? Were you able to play live a lot before the pandemic? I know your first solo song was April,
yeah.
which was after March.
So ironically, since I've started releasing music, I haven't played a single live show.
Really?
Well, I have, in a sense. I've like done backup for other people, but I haven't performed as an artist, my own material since I started releasing music, which is so weird that the recordings come first nowadays, before the touring. But yeah, before I even moved out to Vegas and had my internship, I was in several bands, and yeah, I just loved being on stage and entertaining people. But yeah, none of my original material that is currently out has ever been performed at a live show. So
Wow, are you excited to be able to do that?
yeah, for sure. I haven't actually thought about how I'm going to perform it. Um, I like to have a mixture of tracks and live instruments. I think when people just sing to a track, it's sometimes not as engaging, but also the track helps it feel like modern pop. So yeah, I have got to figure out a way to translate the emotion from the tracks I've produced and have them in a way where it feels fresh live, where I'm not just playing a track, but it still carries the same vibe. So yeah, it'll be fun to try to put that together once shows and venues start opening back up.
Yeah, we're excited to see you play live. I mean, and hear your new stuff. It's just exciting to see where you're going. What are some of your goals with music?
Um, I mean, it used to be when I was a kid, it was like superstardom, right? That was the
Yeah.
goal. Um, but honestly, I just want to pay my bills. I'm married. I've been married for 2 years, and thinking about having a family, and my family is always going to be my number one priority. Um, but there's so many artists that are not Justin Bieber status. They're not really famous, but they're making a good living doing music, and that's ultimately my goal. It's just I want to write, and produce and perform, a combination of all of the things, and just make a living, provide for my family, and hopefully impact people and help lift anyone who listens to my music.
That's awesome. I think that's great. You can't ask for more with life really in general. So I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And yeah, and your music sounds great. So I think that
I appreciate
you'll have
that, man.
a good career ahead of you. I like to ask the artists that we have on here, what's a piece of advice that you have for artists who maybe are just beginning or kind of up and coming? Maybe something that you went through that you didn't think was a good thing at the time, but in hindsight, you're grateful you went through it, maybe something like that.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that has been helpful for me is collaboration. I think back when I was first starting, at least amongst the circle that I was in, there were a lot of musicians who kind of prided themselves on, well, I wrote the song and recorded the song, produced the song, mixed the song, released the song, kind of like the one-man band mentality. Which, when people can do that successfully, that really is amazing. But I've just learned that everybody has their unique strengths, and not that we shouldn't become well-rounded and learn things that are not necessarily our strengths, but we should lean into what we're good at and then let other people who have their strengths contribute to that. So for example, I do produce my own stuff for the most part, but I fall short all the time. If I'm not able to put together what my vision is in my head and I know that the song could be better, I usually reach out to my producer friends and collaborate with them and help make the song, what it needs to be. I'm not a great mix engineer, so I always hire out for mix. I always hire Mitch Davis is my go-to mastering guy, who's a local, who's just incredible. And so by the time that I release a song, at minimum 3 or 4 people have been contributing their talents to the project, and it always has created a better result. And I learn from those people and gain new connections. I network with, the friends of friends, etc. And so I just recommend to anybody who's starting out in the scene, collaborate as much as you can. Write with people that you admire and respect in the local scene. Produce what you can, but also outsource your production if you can't quite capture your vision. Same thing with mixing and mastering, and just lean into your strengths and let other people help you.
I think that's great. I agree. It takes a village,
Yeah.
to do that. It's not a solo thing. Like you said, sometimes that happens, but not often. So I like what you said a lot. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. Well, that's awesome. So do you have anything that you're particularly excited about coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So I haven't actually formally announced this yet. I'm releasing a new song next Friday. So
nice.
I'll start putting promo out for that. I know it's kind of like I'm pushing the release date pretty close, but yeah, new music. I'm putting out a single every month. Next single is going to be next Friday. So mark your calendars.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, where can people find it on social media?
So on social media, if you follow me, my handle is @MichaelV Songs. And I'm pretty active on Instagram, especially. If anybody DMs me, I'm usually pretty good about responding and building friendships that way. And if you're following me on Instagram, you won't miss any of my releases. I'm on every streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Music. Just search Michael Van Wagoner. It'll pop up.
Fantastic. We'll have to post those handles too. Well, thanks for joining us, man. Bowie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one more question. For any artists who might be starting out who are listening, What would you say was possibly the greatest contributing factor for Never Be hitting 100,000 streams on Spotify? Like maybe some sort of business move or advice or something you might want to tell us about.
Yeah. So this is something that I've heard from a lot of artists, is that Spotify will push your first release really hard. Your first release will get on a lot of algorithmic playlists because they're trying to give you a shot, because you're new to the platform, to reach as many people as possible. So for your first single, just make sure it's as good as you can possibly get it. And something that they tell you in marketing is somebody has to see something 7 times before they'll purchase the product, or, you know, whatever you're trying to get them to do. And so many beginning artists think, oh, I'm just gonna put a single Instagram post and tell people to go listen to my song and it's gonna work. But it's so much more effective if you have a release strategy in place where everybody that you know can't possibly miss that you're putting out a song. So make sure everybody sees something about it upcoming at least 7 times before the drop date. Whether it's like use every platform, use Instagram stories, use your reels, use your Instagram feed post on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok is huge depending on your demographic. So yeah, just promote your first single. And if your first single is doing well organically, it's going to catch those algorithms and it's going to ride a huge wave. So that would be my advice. Just hit it hard with promo.
Love it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, hey man, we're looking forward to your new single now. That's great that's coming out. You know, and like I said, hopefully we can see you live when that all gets back to normal. And we'll be sure to stay in touch. I'd love to do this again when things are back to normal and see kind of an update, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This has been awesome.